Hey, today we're going to be talking about document properties and all the unique ways you can use them in Spotfire. My name is Hassam. I'm a petroleum engineer by background. I run a consulting agency called The Agency. We're a team of tech-forward engineers that help streamline, automate, and optimize. I've been a power user of Spotfire for over a decade and have seen the platform evolve. And I realized that not a lot of people know about the really unique features you can do to take your dashboards to the whole next level. And even you can actually build kind of custom mini apps here for really rapid software development and prototyping. So this is a first video of many of explaining kind of the advanced features of Spotfire and all the really unique and fun things you can do. So the first one today we're going to be talking about is document properties. And this is kind of a really nice slow step into things. Think about document properties as a variable. It just stores a value of a specific type. So I'm using the new version of Spotfire, but this should look very similar to the old version if you're using that one. What I have here is just simply some production data for some oil wells that are populated in here. I just have the sum of oil and producing month at the bottom here. The data really doesn't matter. We'll come back to this later. So if you go to File, Document Properties, and Properties, this is where you can go and create those specific document properties. So we're going to go ahead and create two of them. So we're going to go and click on New, and we're going to assign this one, say, string. So you can give it whatever name you want. And you could select a specific data type. So it could be a string, an integer, real currency, etc. You might want to use different types for different things that we'll see here in just a second. You can go ahead and provide it a description. It's really handy to be able to provide, especially if there's multiple different users on this dashboard, of what the specific represents. So we're going to say this is just a string value. And then you can provide it a default value that you want to start off with. In our case, we'll go ahead and just say hello. Right? And we'll go ahead and create another one called number so we can see the different things we can do. And I'm going to change this one to say real. This is a real value. And we'll do a value of 10 in the beginning. We'll click OK. Great. So now we have these two properties created. What can we do with them and what can we use them for? So start off, we'll go ahead and use it to create a new calculated column. So if you go to data, where'd it go? Add a calculated column. And now I'm going to go ahead and bring in, say, for example, my production, my BOE. What I can do is I can go ahead and multiply this column by a value that I entered in my document property. So I can go ahead and say times, and I'm going to go search for my number, the name of my document property, which is number. And now I'm going to be multiplying my production times this number that I enter. And I'm going to go ahead and enter, say, adjusted production. And I'm going to say, OK. And now, if I were to duplicate this visualization, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in that column, this adjusted production, you should see that it is 10 times the value of that. Here we go. So it is adjusted production should be 10 times the value of this specific one. Great. Now, let's see how we can change that number dynamically to really adjust things. So let's go ahead and add in a text area. This is most likely where you're going to be using or exposing a lot of your document properties. So a text area is really just like an HTML canvas. It's really versatile. There's going to be a whole deep dive into what you can do. But we're going to go ahead and say this is kind of just like the filters area / like control panel. So what you can do is you can go ahead and edit the text area. And we're going to go ahead and insert our input field. And our input field is going to be the document property that we just created. So if we go ahead and click input field, click number, and click OK. And we're going to just say this is a production multiplier. Okay, we're going to save that. And now we can see the value that we have of 10 that we originally had. If I were to change this to 2.2, just as for example, it'll go ahead and change all the values at the bottom, essentially taking this production profile times 2.2, and now we have an entirely different one. So this is handy if you want to do unit conversions or scaling things really quickly, etc. This is a really easy way to do so. So if we were to go back to File, Document Properties, you can see that the value of that number has also been changed to 2.2. There we go. Now, you can also use that specific variable inside of a column expression inside the graph itself. So we can right click on this pill, click custom expression, and we can go ahead and say, I want to multiply this value, just like we did before, by my number. and we can go ahead and find it. You'll notice the syntax here for document properties is a $, open curly braces, the name of your document property, and then close curly braces. So if I were to go ahead and do that, great. Now it multiplies, now my graphs match up. It's exactly the same numbers. Now, let's go ahead and start working with strings. There's a big gotcha here that many people don't know about strings that kind of just, you want to tear your hair out whenever you're trying to figure this out. So what we're going to do with strings, we're going to go ahead and back to our text area, and we're going to go ahead and say our string filter. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and insert our input field, and we're going to select our string value now. So we have a string value of hello. It's just a character, right? Very similarly, I can go ahead and use this filter or this value to act as a filter. So I can go to add calculated column, and I can go ahead and say, does my well name, so let's go ahead and look for our well name here, equal to this string value. Okay. Now, one thing that really trips up people is this point. It's like, okay, so I'm saying my well name is a string, and I'm saying equal to this string. Why in the world am I getting this error? Could not find what, this doesn't make any sense. What you have to do is you have to actually convert this document property to formalize it into a string to use it in a custom expression or anywhere else. I know it's really confusing, but this is just how it's set up. The way that we can bypass this is you can just put quotations here, quotations there, and that's it. So now what it's going to take is that document property value of hello. It's going to paste it in right here, and we're going to wrap it around with 2 quotation marks, and that converts it now to a string. And that's how you bypass that specific issue. It's a gotcha, especially if you're just new to document properties. So we're going to say this is just like a well filter, for example. Now, the nice thing is that, so now we created this new column, and if I search for this well filter here on the right-hand side, I see everything is false. But what I have here, which is really cool, is that now I can create these custom filters based on a specific string value. So if we look for a specific well, let's go ahead and type in maybe this guy right over here. So let's go ahead and say 2059 USX EE 29-5. We should be able to see a value of true. And if I select that, it'll show me only that production profile for that specific well. It's really handy, especially if you're trying to do fuzzy searches and things like that. We're doing an exact search here, but nonetheless, it provides a really nice way to be able to quickly filter out data using those specific string values. And you can kind of expose this out to your users in your dashboards for them to be able to kind of construct the visual analysis that they specifically want. So that's string values. So as I'm changing my document property values, regardless of whether it's a number, a string, a date, etc., wherever that value, that document property is being used, it'll automatically change, and that will be recalculated. One thing to keep in mind is that, right now we're not working with that much data. Maybe, it's about 1.8 million rows, and you can see how fast it's going. But if this were to extend over a massive table with a ton of columns, and you're creating a new column and then using that new calculated column in a different column for like a downstream calculation, it may slow down your reports. So you just need to keep in mind of the complexity of doing this over and over again in your reports. If you're doing a one-off here and there, it should be completely fine, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. Great. So now we have this production multiplier and this string filter that we did. What we can also do is we can go ahead and use these document properties also in your data limiting expressions. So if you go to any of your visuals, click on data and click on edit, limit data using expression, I can go use the same exact filters here to limit some of my data. So I can say, again, for examples, we'll go ahead and say well name is equal to, and then we're going to bring in the string value, and we're going to need to make sure that we wrap this in quotations so it knows it's a string and it's going to compare it as a string, and I'll click OK. And we're going to go ahead and just clear out, make sure there's no filters activated, we're good. So now we have that production profile of that one string, and if I were to just change this to say some well, it should show nothing because there's no well that's actually called just some well. So you're just kind of seeing it live in different ways that you can go ahead and use it. So we're going to go back and we'll just type in well here, and we are going to remove that data limiting expression to kind of get back to our normal chart. Great. And we're going to go ahead and remove this. So now we've seen how it works also in data limiting expressions. One really cool way of using also these document properties in a visual is changing the title of certain plots. So let's go ahead and change this title. Let's remove this. And we're going to say this is monthly report. And we're going to use the same exact variable for now. And we can go ahead and say this is going to be October 2025. Right, that's coming up. So we can say this is going to be a report for October of 2025. And we want all our visuals to be able to recognize that, or kind of communicate to our users that this is the data that you're looking at. What you can do is you can take a string value of a document property and put it right here. So you can say, let's just assume this is data for October. That's coming up next month. Let's go ahead and say, we'll go to general, and we can go ahead and put the $, open braces, and we can say string. That's the name of our document property. And I can do close string. And look at that. It changed to October 2025. So I can go ahead and say, let's go ahead and add a little bit more data. Let's go ahead and say production profiles. So now I can say, I can change this. What you can do with this is you can have an admin tab. And this is what I usually do in kind of large, complicated dashboards. You can have an admin tab or a config tab that has these inputs that really control everything in the report. And you can go ahead and say, all right, for this month, this is the name of this report or whatever it is. And a lot of my visuals will then reference or refer back to this value. And now all the titles automatically adjust for me without me having to manually do anything. So if I were to change this to December, for example, I'll go ahead and change it to December. It's a really unique way of using document properties that not many people know about. Kind of just a nice touch to do. So we've covered calculating columns, custom expressions, data limiting and filtering, creating your custom filters in your columns, etc. We'll do a whole nother deep dive on all the functions that you can do within custom expressions, the over functions, etc., and how document properties also play into that in a different video. Now, we're going to get into something a little bit more advanced called data functions, just to tease what it looks like. So if you go to data functions, what a data function is, we're going to go ahead and just register something new. Is essentially, imagine running custom code within Spotfire to manipulate your data and do some really interesting things. So all we're going to do here for now, just to keep it really basic, is we're going to make this a Python script, and we're going to just say this is, intro. So I'm going to have a new variable called some new variable, and it's going to equal some input that we're going to provide it. So we're going to say the input parameters. We're just going to go ahead and add input and input. And this may not make a lot of sense, but we'll go ahead and cover this in a different video. But I just want to show where you can use document properties here. And our output is going to be called some new variable. So some new variable. Okay. And we're just going to copy this guy and paste it over here. Great. So whenever I click run on this, I am going to, so I have an input variable I need to assign it because it's saying, we just assigned an input to the script. What I can do is I can assign this input a document property. So I can say use the document property called string as my input to the script. Again, a document property is just a variable. So imagine you want to do some text manipulation, you want to do some aggregations in Python, you want to run whatever package you want on the data you have in your report, and you need to pass in some variables. Think my assumptions around my cost, my BOE, my OPEX, my CAPEX, my time to frac, whatever it may be. You can pass document property values that you can provide your users a front-end way in a text area to edit and bring in those inputs just like you would do in an Excel sheet, but plug it in here into a script. And then what I can also do is I can then create a new document property based on my output. So I can say this some new variable is going to represent some, output result. It doesn't like under cases. So output result, and I'm going to go ahead and say okay, and that's it. So now it's saying do I want to say this to the library? I don't. I'm good. And now if I go to file document properties, if it actually ran, we'll see we have to actually specifically run the script. If I were to run that specific script, it would go ahead and create a new variable called output with that referencing exactly what we did in the data function, which was just simply providing that input value to the some new variable value. That's it. So this is a very, very slow intro into the data function world and all the things that you can do. But I just wanted to demonstrate there is that you can take these variables, again, think of them as variables, and plug them into a data function, essentially a custom Python script or R script, and you leverage that data to do something else with whatever you want to do. Again, a classic case is being able to maybe run economics, make an API call outside to a third-party system. Really, the world is your oyster in that specific regard. One last thing that I want to go ahead and touch on, and we'll do another deep dive in this as well, is document properties, whenever they change, can kick off scripts within Spotfire. So not only do you have data functions in Spotfire, but you also have IronPython scripts in Spotfire. IronPython is a language, essentially it's a variation of Python that allows you to be able to control window elements that you see. So in Python, you can programmatically manipulate titles of charts and data and where you pull it in from and everything. Really everything in Spotfire, you can customize it through code using IronPython. So what we're going to do, if you go to File, Document Properties, go to Properties, we're going to go ahead and see already ran actually the output result. It just took a second. We're going to go ahead and say anytime a string, this value changes, go do something. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Script. And I've already created this hello world script. So if I go actually to, let me show you script, I already created this hello world. It just simply prints out hello world. There's a whole load of stuff that you can do in here that we'll cover in videos down the line. But nonetheless, just to show you kind of where it is, I have a script. This is hello world. So if I go and click on my string and say, anytime this value changes, I want you to execute a script. I'm going to find my hello world example here and I'll click OK. And now anytime I will change this specific value, it's going to print behind the scenes hello world, and that's it. It's not going to really show up anything here, but nonetheless, just to show you that it can execute something. Where does this become useful? Well, think about just on the very basic perspective, if you were to have a drop-down value of a document property of light theme and dark theme, for example, for your app. You can go ahead and say, when a user selects light theme, change my entire profile, my dashboard to light theme. Or if the user selects dark, then it'll change the entire dashboard to dark theme. More advanced examples are you can have a toggle of saying, how do you want to view layers in your map? So you can go ahead and say, I want to see a map profile for, assuming I'm a landman. I click on that and it'll change all the layers of the map to show different types of layers. It'll turn on some, it'll turn off some. I want to see things from an operational perspective. It'll turn off some layers, it'll turn on some layers. So really some really interesting, cool things you can do specific to that. But I just wanted to show you that you can get document properties to kick off scripts specifically. Another way you can do things that I've seen done in the past is whenever you switch a toggle on, it'll go ahead and run some really complicated analysis behind the scenes when the inputs are ready, and then do some interesting visualizations. So that's kind of an overview, crash course into document properties. Document properties are simply just placeholders of value. They can be of different specific types. You can use them in your column expressions, your visuals, data limiting, chart titles, data functions, and being able to kick off specific scripts.